My name is Charles Abihudi. I'm a pastor. I've been pastor for 20 some years, both in Africa, Tanzania, and also here in the US. We are living in Chicago, moved from Missouri to the windy city of Chicago 2016, and on September we are planting a church in Chicago. And this is my wife, Catherine Abihudi. And we have been in marriage for 23 years. We have 5 children. You can take them to from 11 to 21. So we thank God for the ministry and what is it been doing in our lives. And we are so grateful to introduce ourselves to you, praying that God will bless your life and bless whatever you're doing when we are sharing our life together, me and my wife.
As he just said, I'm Pastor Catherine Abihudi, and we've married for 23 years, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But we met before the 23 years, and if we combine all the years together, I don't know, maybe 30-something years we've known each other. But God has been faithful, and we just want to share our story of where we came from and who we are. We get these questions a lot here and there, but we've never really had time to sit down and put the story together. So, I am from a small town called Morogoro in East Africa, Tanzania. And I was born and raised there. My father originally, he's from Greece, but moved down in Tanzania, fell in love with a lovely woman who's my mother. We were 8 together in the family, and we grew up there, and my parents are still down there. But then, when I was how old, I don't know, I met this guy, but I'll let him tell us first where he came from.
Well, I'm from in central part of Tanzania called Singida, in a small village which kind of 25 miles from the city or the town of Singida. And it's a long way, though back then, just born in the village, grew up in the village. For 17 years I've been in the village and grazing cows and goats and, back forth until God opened the door for me to go to school. So, and from there I went to school.
Which school was that?
It's very funny because I started Bible school before going to high school. So it's kind of backward. But through that, because I went to Bible school in the Kiomboi, which is the district or district of one among the district of Singida region. And that school, I was there in 2 years. And then because that the way it is, then they asked me to do examination to go to seminar, which is private school. So I did the exams. Then there were 3 spots we have to fill in. But it happened that we were many who just passed the exam. So, but God opened the door for me. I was picked up to go to school. And then because a private school, you have to pay for the school. But God provided for it. There was a missionary from US, and he paid for my school fees for 6 years. And that was amazing. So in a school...
Which school is that now?
Oh, okay, they call Lutheran Junior Seminary in Morogoro.
If you are careful, you would hear the word again, Morogoro.
Yes.
That's where I was born and raised. And he comes from the village central to Morogoro. So that's where our story starts. So he was in the high school. His school was he was in a boarding school, and I was in a day school called Forest Hill Secondary School. But I gave my life to Jesus when I was 11 and committed in ministry when I was 15 years old. And so during my high school years, I was active and very involved in the church and also in the youth leadership. So as I came into the high school, I realized they didn't have any Christian fellowship. And I came to know that my friends in other secondary schools that we went to minister, they had a fellowship organizations called Ukwata, and they have time to meet together and do Bible studies, and they get to travel in Easter conference and national conference. I said, why doesn't my school have such a thing? So I initiated that idea to one of the teachers who was supposed to be the school Christian counselor. And in that way, he was very supportive to the idea. The headmaster agreed. So we reached out to the regional leadership to come and start a branch in our school. And guess who comes? This guy here. He was one of the
leader,
region leaders. So he came in, and what happened?
Yeah, we went to her school, and that time they came and gathered together. So we were looking who gonna be in charge, like a leader in that school, because it was a plan to open branches in every school in a region of Morogoro. So sometimes in around the city or around the town of Morogoro, but also we can go to different places, maybe in a rural area, just where the school are. But anyway, to cut story short, that Catherine was among the organizers, so we just appointed her to be a leader of a Christian organization. So she became a leader, and we left from there. I saw her for the first time, and kind of okay, and then we went from there.
What was that kind of okay?
Well, she was charming and kind of bold. She can talk, and we say, well, she will be a leader. She'll do well. That's exactly what happened. And we just, she became a leader. I was, the secretary of the organization, and then on, because a few months later, I think it was April, was Easter conference.
So yeah, so our little branch, I think we only went 2 of us for the first Easter conference to the regional conference, just me and my friend, because we were still building up the team, and that's where it was in his school. And according to him, he said I ran to him and said hello, but actually he walks very fast. Even today, he always ahead of me. Got to pull him back to slow him down so we can go. But he was ahead of us, so we just coming behind them and called him, hey, Brother Abihudi. So he turns around, and that's where we talk, and I guess exchange addresses or something.
Well, I first of all, I didn't remember you very well, because I didn't know who and she was kind of, I knew this guy, so, hey, and what? Okay. But you say, you forgot us? This is so-and-so, this is me, Catherine, from Forest Hill Secondary School. And say, okay, yeah, I remember you. You were chairman. We put you in leadership there. So, but that second time, that's where things started happening in my heart about her. I saw her in a different way. That, she's, of course, she's always charming. She's always talkative, and I can say proactive, I can say in that way. So, but, well, I say, okay, we're gonna we're gonna have conference here, and then it started from there.
Anyway, to make things easier, you know, God works mysteriously. At the same conference, I was elected to be assistant secretary of the region secretary, where he was the secretary already. So that paved a way or gave us the opportunity to be together in the meetings when we plan on things. Few times we traveled together to open branches in other schools, together with our teachers, of course, and the missionary who was overseeing the whole ministry. But that is how we met, and it was not until 2 years later when he introduced his issue about me, which made me think like, you're just my brother. What is happening to you now? What happened to you?
Something happened. The way I saw you committed to God, praying and straightforward. You that you don't fear anybody. You just I remember one time we went to Mwanza. It was a national conference. It was June 1988. And that time when we were leaving the place, you were boarding train. I was passing by to my to see my parents in Singida. Then I saw you, the way you acted. As I say, well, why? I mean, it kind of wanted me to join with her to go together, but I said, well, we will meet. And so, but it wasn't easy. Both of us, the way I saw it. So from there, something happened in my heart, and I started meditating. I didn't have any decision at all, but sometimes I say, I don't want this idea. I'm gonna put aside, and it's not gonna happen, because we have different culture. I grew up in a village.
Did you refer me as a Mzungu?
Yeah, of course. She's a girl, town, born in a city, and everything was awkward, actually. So, but next, 89, we went to Mbeya, Loleza. Was Ukwata, and another gathering. Then that was, we were together with other students, praying together, worshiping, and doing ministry together. That was another level. And then afterward, then one day God spoke to me about you.
God spoke to you about me.
Yes.
Okay, now I'll let you finish that part. What did he say? How did it happen?
Well, it was kind of, I was in study at prep, what they call prep time. So after prep time, you go back. So I went back to my place where I was staying. And then I was just thanking God for the day, praying. I said, then during that moment, I felt the presence of God, and I heard, he said, Charles, Catherine is your wife. Then I say, no. So that no was kind of loud. And then my roommates, we were 4 of us, they say, brother, are you okay?
Did they hear the Charles too?
No, they didn't hear the Charles. That was it's just inner voice. It's not, So I say, no. So they asked me, brother, are you okay? I say, yeah, I'm okay, I'm fine. So, but it took me time, took me 6 months I was just, wrestle with that idea. And then after that, then I say, okay, God, if it's you, I know it's you, but I want you to help. I don't want to struggle. I don't want to force anybody to marry me. I don't want to do anything, because this is too much. It's higher for me. I can't. So help me to have your way, the way you can help me to strengthen me. So I was praying. Then I took a paper, I wrote a letter, hey, say, I think it
No
was...
texting by then.
No texting, no
Handwritten
whatever. We
notes.
don't have cell phone or whatever, or even to ask in school for the phone or whatever to call somebody. They're gonna ask you who you calling and so forth. But it took me time, so I wrote a letter. I remember it was 12 pages, if I'm not mistaken, 12 pages, just writing, and it was not fun. It was good.
What did you write in 12 letters?
Well,
Anyway, this is a project book that will be in the books. Maybe some of the letters will be printed to build up on his story, because he was in a boarding school and I was in day school. I had access to go to church, get into different seminars, and just to grow in the Word of God than he was. So we used to write letters a lot. Every seminar, every preacher would come to my church. I would take good notes, transform them into a letter, and send him so that he can know what we have learned. So we were sending letters to each other until this kind of letter comes with a unique message at this time. I don't remember the words exactly, but just made me think like, I thought this is just a brother. He was a special brother to me already by then. And I was open to him when we had anything to pray about. I would just be free to tell him than anybody else. And if we had a meeting or we had a fellowship, he won't come. Maybe he failed to come for different reason. I realized like now I know the word. I miss him. But it wasn't okay when he was not there. It was more comfortable when he was around. So until I get the letter, and by the time the letter comes to me, I had already built up my covenants with the Lord. Do I have to share with these two? Anyway, so I had prayed because I had committed to serve the Lord. And I have observed different marriages, and bad enough, I had read one of the books of a woman of God that I wanted her so much to be my story life. Like I would like to be like her. But then coming back reading in her story, she was divorced 2 or 3 times. And all that journey, it just struck my heart, and I go like, God, you know what is the problem? Is it a must to be married? I would rather be alone, save you, than being married. So that was my commitment. Like, I don't care about nobody coming to my life. I would rather be alone, committed to the Lord and serve the Lord. If Paul did it, I'm going to do it. No, I mean, I don't want no trouble. So later I evolved from that theory to a point like, God, okay, if you want me to get married, make sure you just bring me that guy that will make sure that we will serve the Lord together. So that was my story. So when I got the letter, I just prayed and said, okay, we'll see what happens. Then we made an appointment to meet face to face. I don't think I answered him back. But we met, and I just told him, like, I got to answer your letter. And he was so nervous. Were you?
Well, no, not so much, because I believe...
Did you know what I was going to answer you?
I didn't know. I was ready for anything. So
anyway, so we went and met and talked a little bit and told him that thank you for the letter and your commitment about it. Well, you say God has spoken to you. I trust, I believe that. I can't say that I've heard the Lord or anything, but it's too early. So if this thing is God's purpose, it will come to pass. If not, it won't happen. So that was my answer to the question, will you be my wife or marry me or whatever? Weird answer, but that's how we started our journey. From that time until I said an official yes, was how many, 2 years later?
2 years later, yeah.
Took another 2 years.
What makes you think it was too early for that?
Because I was still in school. We are 10 years apart. Mm-hmm. So he was about finishing his high school. I'm in the middle of the high school. So I was not in a hurry, no pressure. I wasn't thinking about marriage or anything. So I simply said like, okay, we have time. That was my thought process. Like, I'm not in a hurry. We are not married tomorrow. So what difference does it make if I say now yes or no? Let's leave this matter unto the Lord and see when he's going to answer or what he's going to do to us.
Pastor Charles, in what position did that put you when she said it's too early?
Well, I understood that to wait is very important, and also we are still in school, and I'm still in school, so I didn't, to frankly speaking, to tell her that I didn't want just tomorrow that will happen. But I said, well, I have to tell her because she has to know. Otherwise,
Somebody may come and take her.
well, maybe I thought about that was my maybe thinking about it. But also, I said, well, she has to know. If won't happen, I was ready. So because I said, okay, if that thing is from the Lord, God will take care of me. God will take care of everything. I know it's hard to be rejected, but I say, well, I'm ready for anything. Because when I decided, it took time for me to overcome that kind of fear and whatever I was fighting for. As like I introduced that culture thing and differences and so forth. So I was ready.
Oh, great. Maybe let me back it up a little bit. When you said when you met her first time, you saw the leadership qualities in her and the proactive in her. Is that maybe another part of you that really pushed you to get into that level of?
No, that what okay. I didn't look that to because of that to be my wife, because I have some ideas, because that also was kind of pulling me back, say, oh,
That's a scary,
it's
scary
scary
character.
moment, because it's very straightforward, and hey, and I was looking, I say, okay, but when God spoke to me about it, it wasn't because she's a leader or not, because actually I didn't know if we're gonna be in ministry full time, or I'm gonna be a pastor or whatever. That part wasn't there at all. I knew that I was called, that I would be preaching the gospel, but not to have somebody which will help. I wish I could, I wish that part will be so in my mind that I need somebody who, but the thing it just impressed me about Catherine. Of course, she's beautiful, but also the way she was committed to God. That was the most important for me, to see the way, how dedicated she is, and also to realize how she can present the gospel, the word of God. That was, say, wow, this is good. So that was part of it, that I say, because that commitment to God was the key for me.
So you guys, you married 2 years later, and
Not
No,
married.
no, no.
Confirmed, yes, 2 years later.
and when did you get married after that?
5 years later.
Wow.
In total, right?
Mm-hmm.
Waiting on the Lord.
Yeah.
Great. During that time, were you doing ministry together, or it was just a confirmation and everybody doing their own thing?
Yes. If I understood your question, we were so busy with the ministry, very, very busy. Together.
Okay.
We were preaching different places with other, of course, with our pastor, which you know him very well. We were traveled different places, open branches for churches, whatever, preaching open air crusades or meetings, and even the church all the time. When every service, we have to be behind and praying for people all the time. But people, they were praying for us to get married. They didn't know if we have another relationship,
Maybe to put it in perspective, just as he said, is when he finished school, he joined our church. So we were both youth in the church. And we had the commitment, and we were being groomed up in the ministry. So that is what gave us the opportunity to be in the ministry together, as he said, like we did not just pray for people. We'll be cleaning the church. We'll be setting up the stage and pulling down
even
all that
myself
stuff.
carrying all instrument, equipment, setting and everything, ready. So
We went through a building project. We'll be there laying out and doing all that stuff. But we had agreed together from the beginning, since this thing is a long-term relationship, we did not really went out to, it was not a show-off thing, okay, you are mine or what. No, we didn't even have taken the step yet to tell maybe our parents. Somewhere in between, we spoke with our pastor. Of course, it wasn't intended to, but just because of the environment to be clear and safe, okay, this brother has approached me, this is going on, but we are not saying anything yet. I was the doubter one, always saying I don't know what's going to happen, so it's just there holding on and see what the Lord will do through that relationship. So as he said, I remember when we were announced as what is it called?
So like an engagement.
Our engagement that we are in relation. There were two ladies who came and they were so happy and said they were even fasting and praying. These two kids are so committed. Why don't just they marry each other? And I go you could have told me earlier. I would have been shortened my process because I was a doubter one. Anyway.
What made you doubt? Is it because it was coming from the village, or is it because what really made you doubt? Is it because you didn't see the commitment on him, or what is it made you doubt? And
interesting, none of those. What made me doubt was not hearing God direct for myself. So it's God, if you talk to him, because I was still curious about him hearing God and go why doesn't he also talk to me? So, and it's kind of like my life theme, even in the ministry that we were going, because we are still students, weekends we are going, there's a mission maybe 3 hours away, 4 hours away. I was praying God, do you want me to be in this ministry or not? Should I go to this trip or not? So I always had a strong conviction, whether it's yes, and a few times I had a no. So I go what about this issue? God, only if you can say something, give me a sign. And to widen the answer to your question also is, I had a close friend who also was engaged to a brother in church, from a different church, but she was a very close friend to me. But she was what I defined as so in love. She would talk about him all the time. She would be so excited, can't wait to see him, even if they just saw each other yesterday. If he was coming to visit, I will be all over there what should I wear? What should I cook? I go I don't have such feelings to this guy. Do I really love him? I don't think I love him. And if anybody would ask me, my question is, why am I not, so excited about him as she is? Maybe I'm not in love. So it was not the feelings that pushed me in him. I liked every quality about his hardworking, his commitment to the Lord, and his sincerity was just loving God and honest in every way. So all those were checks. But I just want to hear God telling me too that he is.
I know he said he had a fear at the beginning to see, maybe where you were is not where he was. How did you, on your end, how did you look into that?
With me, accepting Jesus as the Lord and Savior transformed my mind. And Christ was everything to me. And I had given my life to say, Lord, whatsoever you want for me, wherever you want me to, whosoever. So I was able to bring myself to whatsoever situation, and it was kind of I was blind, really. If today I was to be approached with him, I would be asking all these questions. I never cared where do you live, what do you have. He was still a student. He came off college. He had no job. He had no any salary. And yet I said yes after I got that conviction. So all these things behind were really not the highest priority to me then, because of my commitment and knowing that God will not send to me anybody who did not plan for me. So that's why I was so keen needing to know that. So where he's coming from, what is his status in the economy, was not anything above in my priority, like in my first 1, 2, 3. I just so believe that God is able to bring me to whatsoever I am, to wherever he wants us to be. It's possible. So that was my strength, and that was my faith, I would say. So I really don't, until my father brought it up, then I thought like, yeah, I've never been to his village. When I introduced my issue to my father and he asked me, where is he from? Does he have a house anywhere? I go, a house? He's just from school, you know? And he goes, you are crazy, yes. You don't even know him. Where is he from? In a village. Have you been to the village? No, village. What kind of village? So I thought, actually, yes, what kind of village? The best village I know is the Maasai village that I went to preach to. So where is he really coming from? So those things I never processed through until they were brought up later. But I'm glad they came later when I had already given my commitment to say, whatever, brother, I'm with you in. Let's see what life does to us and where it takes us.
Let me ask this one more question. I know you guys, you got married together. You were all called by God. Is there a moment that you felt like your calling was collaborating on each other? Or is there a moment where you felt like he has a different calling, I have a different calling, we need to work it whereby we can merge together? Or at what point you realize that we're in the same path as far as the callings? Or do we have to support each other with different callings? I don't know if you mind.
I don't think we have ever sat down and think about those questions. It just went. We didn't think much if how we're gonna help each other or in the ministry or whatever, but we are just committed ourselves and say, well, we're gonna, and it happened every decision we made about the calling thing or the ministry. It just come out just like that, and we say, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Up to now, at this moment, even moving to one place to another place, it just be there. I remember when I finished my school, and then say, well, I'm feel so strong to go back to pastoral care, pastoral ministry, and it's just pumping up in my heart. Then we say, okay, we're gonna pray about it. We're gonna start praying what exactly God is leading us. So we are looking at a place where we're gonna start or we're gonna be. So
maybe to add on that and bring it back, I had the call when I was 16 years old. Like I confirmed I know what I want to do. So even when I finished Form 4, for those in Africa understand that, I didn't want to go anywhere else. I wanted to go to a Bible school. So it didn't happen. There was no Bible school would accept a single lady. They would accept if you were married as a couple. So the few colleges that I reached out, I was not qualified, and it really disappointed me. But then I went on for higher, finishing high school from 5 and 6. And when I finished there, I just committed myself. I'm not gonna go anywhere, study anything else than the ministry. Now for him, he was already doing his bachelor's degree in sociology. And until you finish, that's when you committed to say, I'll go full-time ministry. So, and what helped out, I would say, we had not have what we thought is our own ministries. We were ministering under the leadership of our lead pastor, doing ministry together. We know that we are called in whatsoever. So there was no time to merge because we didn't own our own. We were doing the same things together. So even when we got married, we just kept on doing the same things that we used to do. Even when we had a church, we kept on pastoring and teaching. Like it's just a team from the beginning. It was never a challenge to say like, okay, this is your ministry and this is me ministry. But as we grew up or as we matured, I would say, we realized our strength. Like, what does he do better? What do I do better? And depending on the opportunity of ministry, we kind of like give ourselves space in those lines.
Wow. That's good. The reason why I ask that question is I'd love to go deep a little bit. From the beginning, he said God spoke to him about getting married to you. And I see you've gone different phases of your ministry, whereby you pastored the church in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and then you moved on to USA, whereby you were in Missouri for a couple of years, and now in Chicago pastoring a church. And in those kind of decision making, I believe one hears from God maybe and connect to the other, or is there one of you who always hears from God as he heard from God from the beginning, or there are times whereby you also hear from God, or there is a conviction comes from the Lord?
To answer that, we both of us we know if God spoke to either one of us, we understand exactly, and then there is next step just to pray about it. For instance, moving from Tanzania to US, it wasn't just overnight thing, just getting out and, you know, because we came through green card.
I don't mean to cut you right there from Tanzania to US.
Mm-hmm.
You guys were very successful in ministry in Tanzania. May you tell us a little bit about that?
We were not married yet. You bring us to the ministry.
No, it's,
you skip us a stage.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was another challenge, another level. Our church was growing. We started with 36 people, I remember very well. Then it grew from that to 100 to 200 to 300. So we're approaching 400 to 500 people. So in the building we're using, we have to expand. We have to put tent around the building so that to accommodate and put speaker outside and so forth. And it was just, we have program like every week we have radio program for young people. Every week we have television with that was only Christian television, is Agape Television Network. It was every Thursday, so we have kind of panel discussion with other ministers. So everybody in the city, kind of when you meet people, all places, they say, hey, we saw you on the TV. We like the way we do. We like the way you are, you know, you speak to young people, and it was explosion. But when this happened, this is what happened. A young couple, they ask us, hey, can you help us in a wedding, guys? So we just, you know, we know you, you know, and we say yes. So we helped them. They got married, and the gentleman came to US, and one time he came back to Tanzania and then said, hey, Pastor, I want you to come to US. I told him I don't have any vision to US. There is nothing. I mean, I can't do that. Then said, well, I'm going to do something which, if you allow me to do. Say, I don't know what you are going to do. Say, give me your information, give me your pictures, say, okay. I gave him information and everything. Then he came back. Then after a year, she got a letter that congratulations that you won the lottery for a green card. And so it took us that letter we put in what do you call
the dash car
in a car for a month. We didn't even open it. So I remember I was reading one newspaper that those who won green card, whatever, they have to, the deadline is that. So I came back home and then I told her, so we say, well.
Actually, he called us because somebody else he played for won and asked us if we got the letter.
We got the letter.
That's why I say, there's a letter from US. We don't know where it came from.
Yeah, we don't know where it came from.
It's still in the car, actually.
Yeah. So we say, we open it, and then we prayed. We said, God, what are we going to do with this? After that, we went different people to ask to like a kind of
The leadership.
the leadership. We went to the leadership first. We showed this letter to them and say, whoa, this is an opportunity for you guys to be a missionary in the U.S. That was the green light for us. We thought maybe they're going to say no. You
Kind of like wish
yeah.
they would.
Yeah. But the issue was in our local church where we are leading it. It was very hard.
But to bring back the question to hearing God, who heard or who hears first or last, it's really in different times, especially now we are talking the major decisions. With this, we went together before the Lord, and we always learned to be obedient or to stay under the authority. This was something that we always watched for, and we really believed like God would use those who are in authority above us. For this case was our church leaders, our bishops, and so we went to them as our father. Give us your advice and let us know what it is. So their advice together with our prayers, like, okay, so what are we going to do? Before then, twice, there were a missionary and there was a college that we were supposed to come through the church to send us, but it didn't work. So when this came out, it was like, oh, we've been trying this before, so this is the Lord's opportunity. You guys can do it. But we prayed and said, God, if this is you, you have to provide, because we don't see any way how we will be able to do this, because it was a big mountain before us. It's so expensive, but with the counsel of many people around us, we said yes, just to answer your call and to allow what was going on in Tanzania, though it was gaining momentum and the names are out there, traveling everywhere. But we knew if God's season is ending and we continue to keep up with what we are doing, it may not be as prosperous as God wants us. So we learn to say yes to God, but also to yield in the counsel of those who have authority above us. That helped us a lot in different decisions that we made. Amen. What time?